entitled Women of Today in Their Search for Attention and Validation Find Themselves on Highway 304, the Cheaters Highway. Exit 5, The Long Game. Husband plays the long game to get rid of his cheating wife. "What the hell is this?" shouted my soon-to-be ex-wife as she threw the papers down on the table. "What are you trying to pull?" "I'm not trying to pull anything, dear. I think it's pretty clear that we've never really resolved things, and since we never withdrew the property settlement agreement, our divorce will proceed just as it would have 6 years ago. Don't you fucking think you're going to get away with this? This is bullshit. What about the past 6 years? Everyone knows we reconciled. Yes, we've been living together under the same roof for the past 6 years since you moved back home, but you never really recommitted to US. Oh, we looked like a normal family, went to the kids' activities, had parties here, but is the truth, am I the guy you want to spend the rest of your life with?" Wifey just stood there and glared at me, finally turning around, and she lit into me. "I stopped seeing him and moved back here because you said you would forgive me, and it was best for the kids, and we could put our lives back together. I've been a wife to you again, and I've tried to make things work, and now you're telling me it was all a lie." Wifey threw the divorce papers and stomped out of the kitchen. I wasn't under any illusion that things would have gone differently. And true, she did break contact with him, but that was because he didn't want anything to do with her. Guess he got what he wanted. 7 years earlier our son was almost 12, and daughter was 11. She looked at me, and I could tell there was trouble. Our counseling session the previous week had gotten pretty heated, and we were due back to see the doc tomorrow. She took a big breath and said, "I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just not happy. And I don't want you to come tonight." Does this mean she wants a divorce? We ended up avoiding each other all morning and mid-afternoon. She came down and said, "I'm going to meet Anna at the coffee shop and then we're going to the restaurant. You're not coming. There's dinner in the fridge." Well, shit. We were supposed to go out with friends tonight. Us, Anna, her boyfriend Bob, and Steve. Bob, Steve, and I all worked together. The 5 of us made up the core group of friends in our social circle. Wifey and Anna were going to meet up first, and go over to the restaurant for a girls' night out. That's what Anna thought it was going to be. Later, I'd come, and Bob and Steve were going to join us later. That was the plan. What was really going to happen was Wifey would tell Amy to go on up to the table that was reserved, while she stopped at the ladies' room. Bob would be there with flowers, and he would officially propose to her. Then my wife, myself and Steve would join him to celebrate. I quickly realized this was serious. I had no idea what was going to happen, but I needed to plan for the worst. I googled everything I could find about divorce laws in our state, and realized this wasn't going to be good. So 17 years down the toilet. Wifey picked fights daily with me, and then one day, she announced that she was leaving me. She needed to discover herself. She couldn't see herself as only a wife and mother. Show was too young to be tied down. She was gone for months, then showed up one day. She professed her love for the kids and me. How she was crazy for a few months, but missed us so much, and wanted to be allowed back home. I allowed her to move home after we had the property agreement and the post-nup agreement in place. At first, Wifey made up for being away from us. Clean house, cooked meals, and lavished us with love and attention. It lasted about a year. The past 5 years had been hard. It was a rare week that passed without her snapping at me about some trivial issue. When I couldn't figure out why it was, the issue would just piss her off even more. "Why can't you stop doing things to piss me off?" she'd scream. "Well, maybe if you were a little clearer about what it was that you wanted, I wouldn't piss you off." Jesus Christ, woman, say what you mean, and mean what you say. I would come back with. Back to that day, Wifey left that afternoon to meet Anna, and I sat down at the computer. Something was rotten in Denmark, and I may find the answer in her email. Well, she changed her password. Check. She could barely check her email. Look at our cell phone statements, lots of text messages not to me. Check. Downloading a keylogger, and I started dinner. The kids needed to eat. I sent him to bed and retired to our bedroom. I couldn't sleep. What the hell is happening to us? Am I going to get screwed over during the divorce? Property agreements in place, but you never know what a judge will do. Why now? The last few sessions at the shrink's office have been pretty awful, because she was so disrespectful. He even called her out on it. Wifey had said, Ron, me, is arrogant. He thinks he knows everything. That's the problem. Our therapist studied her and said, no, Ron isn't arrogant, he is confident, and that's a good thing, but he's not arrogant. Arrogant people think they're better than everyone else, or they are unwilling to change. I don't see that here, so no, I do not believe he is arrogant. There was no mistaking that she was pissed because he didn't agree with her. She got up and left. What a waste of our time. I laid there in bed as the hours went by. Midnight came, no wife. 1 a.m., no wife. Finally, at 1:30 a.m. I heard a door close and her coming up the stairs. As she slipped in the room I snarled, where have you been, and who the hell have you been with? She flinched and said, I've been walking on the bike path thinking. What woman goes walking in darkness on a tree-covered bike path at midnight? I need to go to sleep and get some rest. We can talk in the morning. I got the kids breakfast and rushed him out the door to the school bus about the time wifey came downstairs. Facing each other, not a word was said. Eventually, she said I'd be staying in the guest room until we could figure things out. No. I countered. If you want out, you move out. I'm staying here, as are the kids. Why do I have to move out? She said. Well, you're the one that wants out, not me. You're going to have to work full-time now, and you're not going to be able to afford this house, even with getting child support. Hell, you've already been complaining that you don't have enough time to do things around here, and you've only working a couple days a week. She stared angrily like she wanted to say something. I continued. I'm not having the kids move to some apartment in another school district. She stomped off in a huff. We had a couple appointment that day. When I told our therapist that she wanted a divorce, he commented, right now, that's what she wants. That may change. I said how she was BSing me when she said she was walking on the bike path at midnight. The therapist asked her if she was having an affair, which she angrily denied. That night, I came home and went in my office and checked the keylogger. Bingo. New password to her email, as well as the body of an email she wrote to Steve. My friend, Steve. Apparently, I'm in an open marriage, I found out. Wifey told Steve that we were. She thought they could have some fun. He tried to discourage her, and encouraged her to work things out with me. We had children. Even the strongest men can be worn down by a temptress. 2 weeks later, she decided she wanted to move out, so Anna got a new roommate. As she put the last items into her car, I asked. So this is it, all these years, and now this? I just need to be on my own and take care of things by myself. She sounded like she was trying to convince herself that it would work out the way she wanted. And once I do that, maybe we can start dating and see if we can work things out. Whatever, I thought. Our state required a 12-month separation before divorces can be finalized. Guess that was day one, only 364 days to go. Within a week, she'd gone on a date with Steve. The next month, they had announced their relationship. This was 2 months later from telling me she wanted a divorce. I blasted her about being involved in that relationship a week after she moved out. That told me that she and Steve were seeing each other for a long time before we separated. She snarled back at me. You're the only one that has a problem, so eat crap. Our kids did what teens do and just played along, not wanting to make waves with either of their parents. How did I not have issues at work? Fortunately, Steve and I worked in different departments, and didn't have to actually communicate with one another. And he never said a word to anyone about dating my wife. I think he was already feeling conflicted about the situation. A few weeks passed when I noticed a message from wifey. I would have ignored it, but she had the kids that week. I hope you're happy now. Steve broke up me. It seems that Steve's religious parents were ashamed that he was carrying on with a married woman. It is strange to me that a grown man would break it off with the love of his life because mommy says so. At times, she would come to the house to pick up the kids and sometimes use the computer. When she forgot to close out her email, I read and saved everything, including the email in which Steve was asking if she had gotten her period. So now I had proof of infidelity. Wifey was trying to baby trap Steve to get past his mommy's wishes. I imagined her as a pregnant 44-year woman. I had joined an online dating service, and stated I was separated, not looking for a relationship. I just wanted to meet people. Within 3 days, one of Wifey's friends saw it. I got the phone call. Do you have any idea how hurtful it was to find out you're on a dating site? Probably not as hurtful as you sneaking around with Stevie, then flaunting it in public. Silence. Guess she didn't want to talk any longer. And so, life went on. As summer approached, my Ring camera pinged someone approaching the front door. Looking at my phone, I saw it was Wifey. So I unlocked the door, and she came in like she lived there. I sat in my recliner watching as she flopped onto the sofa with a noticeable baby bump. Her face in her hands. I could hear sobs. It's just so hard sometimes. I work 5 days a week, I have to pick the kids up on Wednesdays, and whenever you work on the weekends, I don't have any time to myself, and it's pretty apparent Steve wants nothing to do with me. Or our baby. Part of me wanted to gloat. She brought this on herself. While my life was hectic, and being full-time parent to 2 teens, I had always managed my time well and was actually thriving. I was working full-time as well. You got the life that you wanted. A few weeks passed, she came by the house to see the kids up after school. I was home because I had taken the day off. She looked pretty worn out, and I actually felt a little sorry for her. Her bump was quite protruding. I felt sorry for her. Hey, I know it's your day to have them, but what if you just hung out here at the house? I can make dinner, and you can eat here instead of going out or back to your place. Really, you'd do that? She asked. No, it's not a problem. I went shopping this morning. I can throw something together while you spend time with the kids. Besides, you look like you could use a break. Oh, what do you mean by that? Wifey snapped. Nothing. It's obvious you're tired, just accept that I was trying to be considerate. Sometimes a guy can't win. You're right, I'm sorry. It's just been a tough week at work. Thank you for the offer. She went off to spend some time with the kids and I threw together dinner. We had a nice meal together. It was almost like years before, with all of us at the table. Not like the last couple of years, where there was always an undercurrent of anger, resentment, depression oozing out from Wifey. Dinner was over. Kids, go do your homework and we'll have time for a movie before I have to leave. Turning to me, she said, let me clean up the kitchen and dishes. I was already clearing the table and said, well, you can help. Put the leftovers in these containers and toss it in the fridge. I'll take it to work for lunch. I was busy washing up the pots and pans and she was drying them. We weren't talking, but I turned to reach for a plate and realized she was staring at me. What? Nothing. She said quietly. I know you, it's not nothing. She put the drying towel down and said, for a long time, I was angry with you and I didn't know how to deal with things. Every time I thought about that huge argument, the one we had years ago when you blurted out that you weren't even sure you wanted to be married to me. Yes, I know you said it in the heat of the moment, and I pushed your buttons that day, but it always stuck in my head. Then my parents died, and I felt like I just needed out. I didn't mean to hurt you by getting involved with Steve. That sure blew up in my face. I nodded and said, yeah, well, we both made some mistakes. I just hope we can stay on good terms, and after the divorce is final. If I start dating someone, I'll wait before I introduce them to the kids. She just nodded her head in agreement. After that evening things were better. We spoke more frequently on the phone, even though it was about the kids. The 1-year mark was almost up where we could file for divorce, and I noticed we hadn't talked in over a week. It was possible that she had her baby, and we hadn't been notified. 2 weeks went by and I still hadn't heard anything when I came home from work one day and found pregnant Wifey sitting on the porch swing. It wasn't her day to see the kids, and they weren't due home from school. What's up? What are you doing here? I asked. She looked down for a minute. Can we go inside and talk? Sure, are you okay? I don't know. I'm just confused, she said. These past few months have been very confusing. For years I was unhappy thinking you didn't want to be married to me, and when I was around Steve, it just seemed like he was everything you weren't. Or more accurately, he wasn't what pisses me off about you, and that's not fair. No, it's not a fair comparison. You saw him in situations that were good and cheerful. You didn't see him when things were bad. And for months you were picking fights with me over trivial crap. Hell, in therapy, you couldn't be honest about what the real issue was. I sat there and quietly looked at the ground. So, what do you want? I looked her right in the face. I'm thinking I should have been more honest with myself, with you, with our therapist about the things that bothered me, and maybe I wouldn't have blown up our marriage. A few months ago, you seemed to be open to reconciling. I guess I want to know if you still feel the same way. Wow. I'm not sure where she got that from. Reader's Digest version, she decided that she wasn't sure about the divorce. She had started individual therapy and found that I was not the root cause of her unhappiness. She realized she shouldn't have gotten involved with Steve, however short it lasted. And her pregnancy somehow grounded her. I was speechless. I had at times suggested we work things out, always to be met with anger and negativity. But, over the past few months, we had seemed to be getting along better. Yet she was pregnant with another man's child. I could not forgive and forget her jumping into her thing with Steve. She wanted to think that because she told me the marriage was over while she told Steve that we were in an open marriage, that meant it wasn't an affair. I understood that Steve was not the cause of our breakup. He was just a byproduct of our conflict. I knew that my male friends flirted with her, but I thought no one would cross that line. I sat there saying nothing for a moment. This is a lot to lay on me. I need to think about what you said and done. She lowered her head and said, yeah, I didn't really think you'd say yes, so take your time, and let me know if and when you want to talk. As she started for the door, I stopped her and pointed to her baby bump. Looking at me, she gestured. You love babies. What the problem? Grimacing, I replied. Apparently, after all these years, you don't understand me. I will never, repeat never, raise another man's child. I will not walk around this town where everyone knows us, and knows that you ran around town with another man. Not your husband, and got knocked up by the other man. While the man that I thought was my friend, ran publicly around town showing off that he was banging my married wife. I exhaled. I will not be the town cuckold. I inhaled. You can leave now. I was not interested in being her plan B. It became obvious that she had monkey branched to Steve, and it hadn't worked out for her. As I thought, I really didn't have any idea how long those two had been meeting behind my back. It could have been the last 7 years. There was lots of times that our friend group had gotten together when I could not attend. Were they hooking up then? Possibly. I didn't hear from her over the next few weeks until I received a message that she had given birth. Jesus, why did she want another baby at her age when our children were so close to being grown? I dropped the kids off to see their new sibling, but I didn't go with them. I waited in the parking lot. When the kids knocked on the driver's window, I unlocked the doors, and they got inside. My son was apprehensive, but his sister was bubbly over their new sister. As we left the parking lot, my son asked me, Dad, Mom wants to know if they could come home. I know I made a face as I replied. Your mom and her little bastard daughter. He didn't reply, so I continued. Son, I know that she put you in a difficult position. As her son, you want to have her back at home with us, but she chose to leave us, and get pregnant by another man. I will not subject myself to that level of disrespect. I'm sorry, but no. My daughter leaned forward from the rear seat. But, Daddy, Aunt Anna says she can't stay there with a baby. Not my problem. She should have thought about that sooner. At that moment, I knew that when wifey came over last month, she was planting the seeds of having a place after the baby came. She knew then that Anna was not going to have a baby cramp her lifestyle. I had the realization at that point that I would be stuck with her damn medical bills since I had foolishly left her on my health plan. I knew that Steve and I would be having a conversation about that. Wifey and her baby went to live with her cousin for a short time. The cousin helped her get on welfare, WIC, and food stamps and found some Section 8 housing so she could be on her own. With no support structure, she couldn't work. I could not imagine what it was like for her. Going from kept full supported wife to welfare mother. The 12-month separation period ended, so our divorce continued, and by the time her baby was 7 months old, we were divorced. After one visit to their mother's apartment, the kids didn't have a desire to go back. Their safe suburban lifestyle made them uncomfortable in their mother's new home environment. Every few months, ex-wifey brings her daughter over to visit the kids. They don't usually stay long. I excuse myself and go outside or take a drive while they're here to visit. Last year, Steve's parents sued for custody of the baby. It took almost a year for them to win the case. It was important to them that their granddaughter not be raised in that disgusting neighborhood by a welfare mother that sold herself to nearby tenants for money and booze. That she had no desire to better herself, and get a job to support their granddaughter. I never heard if Steve ever paid any child support. She is alone and jobless. Hope that she's happy now that she got what she wanted. I would like to tell you that I'm doing great, and meeting young beautiful women, and living the life, but that would be a lie. When I'm done raising my kids, I will be young enough to start over. It's only a few more years at the longest. Oh, one more thing. I did whip Steve's ass. Friends don't do that to friends. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe.